What if I told you that the hamburger may have been invented in Wisconsin in 1885 by a 15-year-old boy at a county fair who ran out of pork and switched to beef? That a small town in central Wisconsin invented an entirely new variety of cheese that became one of the most consumed in America? That a Belgian immigrant community in northeastern Wisconsin makes a stew that requires a 65-gallon cauldron and a community of volunteers, and has been making it the same way since the 1800s? Wisconsin, America's dairyland, 5.5 million people, more than 1.2 million dairy cows, 58 master cheesemakers, the only such certification outside of Europe. A state that has been quietly doing things with milk, grain, and fire that the rest of the country is still figuring out. In 1885, a cheesemaker named Joseph Steinwand was working in his father's cheese factory in Colby, Wisconsin, a small town in Marathon County in the center of the state. He was experimenting with a variation on cheddar, trying to produce something milder and moister that could be made and consumed faster without the long aging process that cheddar required. The result was Colby cheese, a washed curd cheese made similarly to cheddar but rinsed with cold water during production, which removes some of the lactose and acid and gives the final product a sweeter, milder, softer character. Where cheddar ages for months or years, Colby is ready in days. Where cheddar develops sharpness and complexity with time, Colby stays mild and elastic and cooperative. Colby cheese is now one of the most consumed cheeses in America. It appears in every grocery store, in every lunchbox, in every deli counter. It is the cheese that parents put in their children's sandwiches, the cheese that melts easily on burgers, the cheese that requires no explanation and no expertise to enjoy. It is the most democratic cheese in America, present at every economic level, at every age, in every region. This one is contested. It has been contested for over a century. Wisconsin is not going to stop making the claim. It is 1885 at the Outagamie County Fair in Seymour, Wisconsin. A 15-year-old boy named Charlie Nagreen is selling meatballs from a food stall. Business is slow. People want to walk around the fair and eat at the same time, and meatballs do not travel well. Charlie has an idea. He flattens the meatball, places it between two slices of bread, and sells it as a portable meal. He calls it a hamburger. The problem is that Hamburg, Germany, is also the origin of ground beef preparations that were brought to America by German immigrants and served in New York restaurants in the 1870s and 1880s. Texas has its own competing claim. Connecticut has another. Food historians have been debating the question for decades and have not resolved it. What is not contested? Seymour, Wisconsin officially calls itself the home of the hamburger. The town holds an annual burger fest featuring the world's largest hamburger and a ketchup slide for children. In 1989, a Seymour resident set a world record by cooking a 5,520-pound hamburger. The record has been broken since. Seymour still tries to break it back. Racine, Wisconsin, is a city of 77,000 people on the western shore of Lake Michigan, about 30 miles south of Milwaukee. It has been called the Kringle capital of the United States. The designation is accurate and essentially uncontested. A kringle is a large, oval Scandinavian pastry, specifically Danish in origin, made from layers of buttery, flaky dough wrapped around a filling, sealed into an oval ring, and iced with a thin layer of white frosting. The fillings range from the traditional almond, pecan, raspberry, cherry, to Wisconsin-specific combinations like cranberry and cream cheese or apple and cinnamon. A fully sized kringle is roughly 14 inches across. It serves a family. It is a flat, dense, holiday-sized item. Danish immigrants arrived in Racine in significant numbers in the late 19th century, drawn by job opportunities at manufacturing companies. They brought their baking traditions with them. By the early 20th century, Racine had a dense concentration of Danish bakeries. The O&H Danish Bakery, founded in 1949, became the most famous. Lehman's Bakery and Benson's have operated for comparable lengths of time. All three still make kringles by hand. In 2013, the Wisconsin legislature designated the kringle the official state pastry. Danish bakers in Racine were not surprised. They had been making the state pastry for a century before the state thought to make it official. In northeastern Wisconsin, in the communities around Green Bay, in the Belgian immigrant settlements of Kewanee and Door counties, in the church basements and community centers of a region that still holds on to the food traditions of 19th century Belgium. There is a stew that requires a minimum of 65 gallons to make correctly. Booya is a thick, slow-cooked community stew, chicken, beef, or pork simmered for hours with potatoes, carrots, celery, peas, onions, and whatever the cook has available. The name comes from bouillon, the French word for broth. The Belgian immigrants who brought the recipe to Wisconsin adapted it to local ingredients and circumstances and made it the centerpiece of community gatherings, church fundraisers, parish picnics, neighborhood events where the entire community needed to eat together and a single household pot was not adequate to the task. You do not make booya for 6 people. You make it for 60 or 600. The preparation begins a day in advance. The meat is cooked overnight. The vegetables go in the next morning. The whole thing simmers for most of the day. A dedicated volunteer, sometimes called the booya master, sometimes just the cook, manages the fire and the stirring and the seasoning through the entire process. When it is ready, people line up with their bowls. New Glarus is a village of 2,300 people in Greene County, Wisconsin, founded in 1845 by Swiss immigrants who were specifically recruited to settle there because the landscape resembled the Swiss canton of Glarus. The village has maintained its Swiss character for 180 years. There is yodeling, there are Swiss festivals, there are chalets. In 1993, Dan and Deborah Carey founded New Glarus Brewing Company. Their flagship beer, Spotted Cow, is a farmhouse ale, creamy, slightly cloudy, with a sweet, grain-forward character and very low bitterness. It became one of the most beloved beers in Wisconsin within years of its introduction. Then, New Glarus made a decision that turned a popular local beer into a legend. They stopped distributing outside Wisconsin. Originally, the decision was practical. They could not produce enough to meet both state and out-of-state demand. But the decision became a policy. New Glarus Spotted Cow is available only in Wisconsin. It cannot be purchased in Illinois, Minnesota, Michigan, or any other state. It can be found on eBay, shipped illegally across state lines, for prices that reflect the absurdity of the situation. The result is that Spotted Cow has become the most sought-after beer in Wisconsin's tourism economy. People cross the border specifically to drink it. Wisconsin residents bring cases home from road trips. People who move out of Wisconsin listed among the things they miss most about the state. A beer available in exactly one of 50 states should not be nationally famous. Spotted Cow is nationally famous precisely because it is available in exactly one of 50 states. In 1984, Craig and Lee Culver opened the first Culver's restaurant in Sauk City, Wisconsin, a small city on the Wisconsin River about 35 miles northwest of Madison. Craig's parents, George and Ruth, ran a local A&W franchise nearby. Craig had grown up in the restaurant business. He had eaten at Solly's Grill in Milwaukee, where Kenneth Solly's Salmon had been putting generous pats of Wisconsin creamery butter directly on hamburger patties since 1936. Craig built a chain around the concept. The Culver's Butter Burger, a beef patty cooked to order, served on a lightly buttered toasted bun, is not the same as Solly's version. The butter is in the bun, not on the patty. The approach is more restrained. But the Wisconsin logic is the same. Dairy state, dairy product, butter belongs on everything. Culver's now operates over 900 locations across 25 states. The chain is known for 3 things: the butter burger, the Wisconsin cheese curds, and the frozen custard. A richer, egg yolk-enhanced version of soft serve that Wisconsin has been eating since the 1930s. All 3 items are Wisconsin originals. The chain is the largest commercial exporter of Wisconsin food culture in the country. Dubuque County is a peninsula that juts into Lake Michigan from the northeastern corner of Wisconsin. 70 miles of shoreline, cherry orchards, fishing villages, and a food tradition that was developed by Scandinavian fishermen in the late 19th century and has been performed as a theatrical dinner experience every night of the tourist season ever since. A fish boil is exactly what it sounds like: fresh Lake Michigan. Whitefish, onions, and potatoes boiled together in an enormous cauldron of heavily salted water over an open wood fire. The meal itself is simple. The event around it is the point. When the fish is nearly cooked, the fire master adds kerosene to the fire. The flames shoot upward dramatically. The boiling water overflows the cauldron, taking with it the fish oils that have risen to the surface. And the fish emerges clean and perfectly cooked, served immediately with drawn butter, coleslaw, rye bread, and Door County cherry pie. The overflow is called the boil-over. It is the moment every tourist is waiting for. The fire erupts. The cauldron overflows. Children take a step back. Cameras appear. The meal has not changed. The theater has not changed. The Viking restaurant in Ellison Bay has been doing fish boils since the 1960s. Rowley's Bay Resort has been doing them since the 1960s. They will be doing them in the same way when everyone currently alive is gone. This one is exactly what it sounds like. Colby cheese and Monterey Jack cheese marbled together in a single block. It was created in Wisconsin. It has no other plausible birthplace. The only place in America where both Colby, a Wisconsin invention, and Monterey Jack, a California invention, were being produced in significant quantity. In the same region was Wisconsin, where cheesemakers had the infrastructure and the creative incentive to combine them. The result is one of the most widely consumed cheeses in America. Present in virtually every grocery store cheese section, used in everything from quesadillas to sandwiches to the top of nachos. It is mild. It melts easily. It comes in a block, a shredded bag, and slices. It is on the shelf next to the Colby and the Monterey Jack that it was made from. Nobody claims the exact inventor. Nobody can. It happened in Wisconsin, sometime in the 20th century, at one of the thousands of cheese factories that have operated in the state since 1840. Wisconsin now produces over 2 billion pounds of cheese per year. Colby Jack is one of the most popular varieties. It goes on everything. It started here. Sheboygan, Wisconsin, has been officially designated the bratwurst capital of the world since 1970, when a competition with Bucyrus, Ohio, yes, there was a competing claim, was settled by a judge who awarded the title to Sheboygan. The Sheboygan brat is not just any bratwurst. It is a specific preparation from a specific city. The sausage is made from fresh pork, not the pre-cooked version sold in most of the country, with a specific seasoning blend that Sheboygan butchers have maintained for generations. It is grilled or simmered in beer, then served in a Sheboygan hard roll, a specific, dense, crusty roll that exists primarily in Sheboygan and that locals will tell you is not replicable outside of Sheboygan. 2 brats go in a single roll. This is called a double brat. Mustard, pickles, and fried onions are acceptable. Ketchup is not. Johnsonville sausage began in nearby Sheboygan Falls in 1945, when Ralph and Alice Stayer opened a butcher shop. Their bratwurst became nationally distributed and is now one of the most recognized sausage brands in America, sold in over 45 countries. The Stayer family still owns the company. The headquarters is still in Sheboygan Falls. What if I told you that the most important food state in America was not California or New York or Texas, but a dairy state in the Midwest that most people associate with cheese hats and Green Bay Packers games? Wisconsin produces more cheese than any other state, more cranberries than any other state, more ginseng than any other state. Its master cheesemaker program is the only one outside of Europe. Its dairy farms produce milk that becomes Colby cheese, a Wisconsin invention, and Colby Jack, and cheddar aged to a sharpness that sets the national standard. A 15-year-old flattened a meatball at a county fair and may have invented the hamburger. A Danish immigrant community in Racine built a pastry tradition so specific and so beloved that the state had to officially recognize it. A Belgian immigrant community in Green Bay makes a stew in a 150-gallon cauldron for the same reasons their great-great-grandparents made it. Because the community needed to eat together and no ordinary pot was big enough. Not every state has a beer so beloved that refusing to sell it outside the state border made it nationally famous. Not every state invented a cheese variety that is now in every American refrigerator and carries the name of the town where it was created. Not every state performs a dinner as theatrical entertainment every night of the tourist season, complete with kerosene and fire.